this is Bittensor, and it's taking Bitcoin structure and applying it into creating useful AI. And it's really early, but it's starting to pump out some really interesting things.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about how a 60% drop on some of these tokens affects these treasury companies.
I think you need something that's generating revenue. You need something that's sustainable and that can make it through the next bear market.
Welcome back to the Rollup. We are your hosts. I'm Andy.
I'm Robbie, and this is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
What's up, Kaira? How are you, man?
Hey, Andy, doing good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. I just talked to Kyle from 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, one of the co-founders. They're a pretty big media company in the space. They just did a podcast about Ethereum DATs. I think that the topic of today's show is certainly around these crypto treasury companies. No better guy to talk to you or to talk about it with than you, man. Good to have you on. And yeah, man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. All right, so you're involved in multiple things in the space. I think the pressing thing that I'm curious about is around your involvement with Bittensor, xTAO. Your thoughts on these treasury companies. Would love to talk about WonderFi, Robinhood, how that kind of all came about. But I think you guys were one of the first kind of like non-Bitcoin or Ethereum treasury companies. I feel like you guys started this before it was kind of the hot thing to do. How did you guys find out about this opportunity? What's the story behind xTAO and your involvement in Bittensor?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to date myself by telling you the origin story, because the inspiration for xTAO was I had been building in Bittensor for I guess about a year or so, saw the incredible potential, just wanted to dedicate kind of the next chapter to that after WonderFi. And it reminded me of when I first got into Bitcoin, and this was 2016. It was really just crypto community that was focused on Bitcoin. There wasn't really anything that was getting like more of the broader public into the space. And then the first Bitcoin miner went public, and it was a business model people could wrap their heads around, backed by this high growth asset. And to me, that created this huge inflow of just interest and understanding about Bitcoin. And so that was the inspiration for xTAO when I started this in October last year, was create something that an investor in a Bitcoin miner can understand and have a sound business behind it, something that's cash flow positive, generates revenue, but then it's also backed by this asset that, I think is going to be a top 3 crypto asset in the next 4 or 5 years.
So is the publicly traded company, is that called xTAO?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What is the premium to the NAV as it exists today?
So we're announcing our holdings actually tomorrow. So you'll be able to
Yeah, it's not public already.
It's not public yet, but you can kind of reverse engineer it a bit. But we raised $23 million US, and the majority of that has been used to buy 𝗏. So I think that'll make us the largest public holder of 𝗏, and we're going to be aggressively accumulating more, but really also focused on, the core focus of the business is operating this validator and growing that, and then investing in other infrastructure in the ecosystem. I think there's a ton of value. You guys are talking a lot about the DATs, for good reason. I think they're so great for the ecosystem. We obviously have a large treasury, but we'll continue to run the operating business, and I think they're complementary, and I think that's important for an asset like Bittensor. I look at it a little bit differently than some of the Bitcoin treasury companies and some of the more established assets.
Yeah, so you're not just running this xTAO company just to accumulate as much Bittensor as possible necessarily. You're also trying to run validators and invest and expand the Bittensor ecosystem, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how we can bring the most value, and we want to be an institutional product for 𝗏 that has the most credible kind of capital structure. I think I'm my background's a kind of, finance and securities law. So I'll never be able to get away from how important I think capital structure is in these vehicles. And I think it's so cool to see how many different styles there are. But I think for us, that was a focus from day one, was just having a very sound, high integrity capital structure that can last. Because again, I think for assets like Bittensor, they're way more nascent than Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, of course. So you potentially will have much larger drawdowns. And so I think you need something that, that's generating revenue. You need something that's sustainable and that can make it through the next bear market. That's key in my opinion.
Innovating finance, global, institutional, and on-chain. Deep liquidity to drive capital efficiency. Now, maximize yields on institutional-grade liquid staking with ETH. Unlock $1 trillion of capital via 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗵. All of this secured by Mantle's treasury of billions in stables and ETH capital pools. This entire ecosystem is coordinated by a vast network of seasoned VCs that are aiming to create the next generation of banking and financial technology. This is Mantle.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about how a 60% drop on some of these tokens affects these treasury companies.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah.
That's I think it's a big issue because, especially, I mean, you guys are, I'm sure, experts or becoming experts in the DAT structures, but it's interesting because a lot of the pipes they're going into existing NASDAQ operating companies that have an existing business. They have, relatively high burn. They need to keep the existing non-crypto business going for regulatory reasons. And so that looks fine right now, and that's great. I think that, and especially with something like Bitcoin, ETH, or Sol, I don't like, for Bitcoin, I don't think you were going to see a 90% drawdown.
Right.
But I think when it's something that's newer and people are not as bought in on, there's going to be more conflict that comes up when we go into a crypto bear market, and a company has 100 million or 400 million or whatever it is of this particular crypto asset, and then it draws down. I think it's going to create a lot of pressure around what the company does next, and how how it can sustain itself. And then also, if it's burning that much and it's then going to be burning cash, it's going to be create a forced sell, like drawdown of the assets and forced sales. I think something that can be cash flow positive despite a large drawdown is really critical for doing a treasury strategy with something like Bittensor or other non top 3 assets, I'd say.
So in today's ETHZilla, I think is what was announced, 425 million or something. In the last post of their tweet, they said normal operations of our company will continue, basically. And you're saying, and this is a known fact, that effectively these companies can't just turn into straight crypto accumulation vehicles. They need to, for the sake of optics per se, they need to keep their business going, earn some revenue from that, but then on the side they can do these crypto accumulation things.
Yeah, so basically the structure for and I need to dive deeper into the one that was announced today, but basically, so like with SPET, for example, the ETH treasury strategy that I think was kind of the big first pipe.
Yeah.
There's a legacy business. I think typically the company, the investor groups that are putting this capital and are sourcing NASDAQ operating companies that are sort of between like a $5 and $10 million market cap. And then they're typically burning, maybe between 4 to 8 million a year on the legacy business. And then the investor group comes in, puts in all this capital, it gets allocated all under a asset management agreement. So it's basically ring fenced from the existing legacy business. So the existing operators, CEO, et cetera, are focused on, the gaming business or the solar business or whatever that focus might be, and then all of the new capital that comes in is, or the vast majority of it is focused on just accumulating ETH or whatever the asset is, and then you kind of have usually one person, like a CIO or something like that, that is responsible for that. So that burn is going to continue. I'm a lot less concerned about that with something like Bitcoin or ETH when they're raising these huge pipes. I just feel like that will resolve itself, and they'll be able to sort of slowly transition the the board and things like that to just truly become like a pure crypto treasury play. But I think with something that is a lot more volatile, there's way more risk around it. So that's a concern, I think, in my eyes.
Interesting. So when you were looking at the landscape for doing one of these DATs or pipes as you call them, you settled on Bittensor at being previously exposed to the ecosystem and bullish on it. What makes you so bullish on Bittensor? Like, why is this something worth accumulating? Why do you want to accumulate more? What's your frame of reference for where Bittensor is going to go?
Yeah. So for me, I think that spending a lot of time in the ecosystem and just seeing what is being built gives me the highest conviction and how much talent is being accumulated within Bittensor. There's over 100 subnets. Everybody is heads down building, and it's still early. So some of the subnets are not really creating value. A lot of them are starting to do that. And I think, to me, from a time evolution standpoint, it's pre-first halving for Bittensor. So it's like Bitcoin in the first part of 2012. So really hard to see exactly kind of how big this is going to be, but I think that it has all the right indications so far, and so that's a big part of it for me. And then I think that more kind of superficially, I think one of the key things of creating a massively successful crypto asset that we've only seen with a few is something that non-crypto people can understand and wrap their heads around. And so Bittensor is not quite there yet. Most people in the ecosystem can't really explain what Bittensor is. But I do think that having the same tokenomics and a lot of similarities to Bitcoin is going to help bridge that gap for people. And so that's I found that is a really helpful way to bring people into Bittensor, is just saying, okay, you understand Bitcoin, you invested in Hut 8 or Marathon or MicroStrategy. This is Bittensor, and it's taking Bitcoin structure and applying it into creating useful AI. And it's really early, but it's starting to pump out some really, really interesting things.
Sorry, so you're gonna accumulate a ton more then?
Yes, we'll be aggressively buying 𝗏 for sure.
Do you have like a supply goal, like a supply target? What percentages?
I feel like I don't want to put out a number yet, but I think that I think that particularly because we will be investing in building infrastructure, and then we are going to be looking at working with different subnets also. That I think is there's a key gap there where subnets need to be able to reach mainstream investors also, and I think that xTAO is really well positioned to do that. So we're going to be aggressively growing, but don't have a specific number right now.
Yeah, I think some of these ETH ones are trying to hit. I think Tom Lee said he's trying to hit 5% of the ETH supply.
Right. Yeah, that's a big number.
That's a lot. Yeah, it's actually quite the paradox here with these accumulation vehicles. It's like, you accumulate all this supply of these networks, which is great for the asset price, but then you get a lot of the ownership of these networks effectively in traditional finance vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very interesting. And then you're starting to see the, like, Robinhood, or and FTX had done this previously, but tokenized equities. So you have now tokenized versions of the stock that is a holding company for the asset.
Yeah, it's like a full circle, right? It's like the snake eating its tail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So do you think that this entire concept of these pipes or DATs, like, is this going to end um at a certain like point, whether it's because of like blowups or deleveraging or people just
Mhm.
moving on to the next hot thing? Like maybe if you could take a wild guess or prediction, like what does the next 6 to 12 months look
Mhm.
like for these companies? Like, are we gonna get them
Yeah.
for every asset? Are people gonna start copying you and just do BitTensor ones and just like there's gonna like what is your like vision for how this is gonna play out for the industry?
Yeah, I definitely think it's extremely hot right now, and so I feel like we're somewhere in the in the peak of that, or at least approaching it. I think that I think they're great for the ecosystem just in general. I think that being just going back to Sailor, what Sailor did, being able to create this uh, bridge for investors that can't invest in Bitcoin to come into Bitcoin. It was genius, and and to as he admits, was sort of a mistake almost. Like, he just kind of stumbled into it. It's like, oh, we have this massive Bitcoin holding, and now when I'm talking to um, I don't know, these different group like bond investors or convertible investors, etc., they're like, oh, we can actually come in this way. So I think what he created is really really amazing. I do feel that it will reach a saturation point, at least with new treasury companies coming in, for the leading assets, because I think it becomes harder to differentiate. Why would I invest in this versus a micro strategy or versus something else? Obviously, there's there's always going to be nav kind of arbitrage opportunities and things like that. So maybe that just kind of keeps it going for longer than I'm thinking. But I do think that being able to differentiate with kind of a business model that is investable and that is sort of is high growth or has the potential of high growth is what this will revert to. And so that's kind of how we've positioned ourselves. But yeah, I think we probably still have quite a lot of legs left right now. So yeah, excited to see the next six to 12 months unfold.
So maybe like more alpha, more opportunity in like in these DATs or pipes for different tokens like BitTensor, Sui, whatever the newer ones are. Maybe less differentiated opportunities in the big tokens. Might as well just buy the established players. Um, yeah, but I
I
think
think so.
generally accelerating here.
I think, yeah, I agreed. I agree.
Yes. Yeah. All right, let's shift gears. WonderFi, Robinhood. You worked with Kevin O'Leary on this, or at least had some sort of association.
Yeah.
Call him Mr. Wonderful. You sound Canadian. My parents are from Barrie. I've got the Canadian blood in me.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, how did you meet Kevin?
Yeah.
How did that unfold? And let's talk about Robinhood there in the crypto.
Yeah. So I founded WonderFi in 2021, start of 2021, and the state of play basically was Canada was not relevant from a like in the crypto landscape, but there were lots of good teams that were building and lots of smart people, good tech. There were dozens of different crypto exchanges that were in Canada, all competing for the same customers, but nobody had kind of taken the lead. And so the vision with WonderFi was to create a Canadian crypto company that could compete on a global scale. And so basically came in, we created the exchange and brand, which Kevin O'Leary was a big part of. And then we just started bringing in the best tech and talent, and we grew WonderFi to the largest crypto exchange in Canada in the first sort of 2.5 years. But O'Leary, so we had just closed the financing, or we're in the process of closing it, and then we got approached by O'Leary and his team. They were looking at investing in regulated crypto assets, and WonderFi really was well positioned for that. And so yeah, we brought him on as a kind of a lead investor, and I considered him more of like a co-founder because he was so involved with the company.
Yeah.
And yeah, was really really great to work with him, and helped us get that to where we got it. So yeah, and then I would say when I was still running WonderFi's CEO, we had a bunch of plans for expanding into the US and Australia and kind of globally. And then at the same time, we had a bunch of inbound from different companies that were looking to enter the Canadian market. And to me, what's transpired with Robinhood, it's, a best case scenario, because it's even more exciting than a crypto company acquiring WonderFi. It's having a TradFi company acquire it's just great for the industry. It's really cool to see.
Introducing Asset Runes, the future of decentralized finance. Stablecoins natively on Bitcoin. Hedge against volatility. Diversify your portfolio. All directly from your Bitcoin wallet. Secured by ZK technology. This is Asset Runes. Available now, exclusively on Starknet.
Yeah. So, all right. So, quick step back.
Mhm.
Mr. Wonderful, as they call him on Shark Tank, one of the more, direct, blunt investors on the show.
Yeah.
We'll definitely call, straight shooter. Was there any times in building WonderFi together that Kevin was a straight shooter to you and was like, "Hey, Karia, listen, man, this is to be done this way, or you're not thinking about this correctly," or broadly, like, was there any key lessons and experiences that shaped your entrepreneurial journey that you would share to others as advice, whether they're investors, speculators, builders, etc.?
Yeah, great question. I remember when I first met Kevin, and we were already on this path and had a very clear trajectory for where the company was going. And when he came in, he shared his vision and what he thought he could bring to WonderFi. And it really was this kind of inflection point and decision point, which wasn't clear to me at the time. And I think basically what he said is, Karia, you need to go and do some soul searching and see if this is what you want. This is what I'm going to do. And I think that, so I went back, thought about it, and was like, okay, yes, this is the direction to go. And then once we got a deal signed the next day, and then within a week, I was meeting with CEO of Circle, CEO of FTX, obviously FTX, that in hindsight issues there, but it was really, he was opening all these doors to all these different crypto companies that were focused on regulatory first. And I think that when opportunity comes knocking, you got to answer. I think that's really one lesson. And then I think the other is that for some people just love doing deals, and some people just are, that's what they eat, sleep, and breathe. And I would put O'Leary in that category. Just put so much energy behind the company, and it was great to work with him on that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think people thought that when Robinhood was going to enter into crypto, then this WonderFi announcement came out. They thought that with Kevin O'Leary, with what you guys were building, they thought this was the Robinhood, kind of announcement. Obviously, they ended up launching their own chain. But what I came to realize was that they some of the reason why they bought WonderFi, why Robinhood was interested, was for some sort of licensing or some sort of licenses that they needed. What was the actual details there?
Yeah, so in Canada, the reason that Canada is lagging in so many areas, not just crypto, but just in business in general, is over-regulation. And amongst other things, but that is something that Canada has very much over-regulated, is crypto in general, crypto exchanges, etc. So we had gone through all of the time, cost, and energy to get all of these licenses in Canada to operate these regulated exchanges. And so that, that is a big piece, I think, for Robinhood, or, anyone entering into the market, is being able to shortcut that process and get entities that are licensed, have a track record, all that stuff. So I do think that's a big part of the equation. One other quick answer to your last question, though. I do think that, and I don't know if it's a lesson or not, but I do think that as an entrepreneur, as a founder, you have the choice when these types of opportunities come, whether it's a new partner, funding, commercial stuff that's going on. I think it's really easy for, especially first-time founders or those that are earlier in their journey, to really get stuck in the spreadsheet of like, what are my economics, like all of that stuff. And I think that in the current environment is, being able to collaborate and bring together a lot of people that have a lot of momentum and force means maybe your economics look different than, when you had initially structured things. But I think it can create this like velocity that's not possible just sort of on your own or with your partners. And so, not to say that's always the right way to go, but I think that I've seen like huge opportunities just getting missed because somebody kind of has too tight a grip on things. So I think there's a bit of a balance there that can be struck to open up these opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been building the Rollup, this media platform, for 4.5 years. And the way that we kind of think about it, similar to what you're saying, is we're very, especially in crypto bull markets, very tunnel visioned on like, we have our business model, we have our team, maybe scale a little bit, we have our offer, we have our systems and processes. Like, we're just very focused. Um, and we don't try to jump on every single opportunity that comes and try to like expand there. Like, we're just like, no, like
Yeah.
just kind of like less is more. But some sort of line between that of balance in terms of this fluidity, where it's like, okay, well, realistically, there is going to be an opportunity that comes up at some point in time if you're properly positioned, which is just, kind of being in the right place at the right time, working, etc. And like, there is value, as you're saying, in having that agility. I guess like the question is like, how good of a decision maker are you to know which ones are worth hopping on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. It's such a balance because you need to be laser focused on what your core business is, and then you also need to, depending on your role, you need to be able to kind of pull yourself out of that and pull yourself out of that execution mode and sort of see the opportunities for what they are in really an egoless way, which is really hard, because it is a push and pull, right? I think the more you're relentlessly executing and doing a great job of that, I think the harder it becomes to kind of be truly objective in the way that somebody that's not as attached to the business is, that could see what a growth opportunity looks like. But and then again, to your point, in bull markets, you're probably seeing, dozens of opportunities a week or a month, and it's
Yeah.
and like that pursuing that is just can be really futile, I think, as well.
Yeah. I have a saying in bull markets. I mean, it goes for life as well, but just less is more. Less
Love
is
that.
more.
Love that.
That's my bull market mantra. All right, kind of coming to a close here, Karia. What is your uh kind of like, when you're looking at, again, kind of back to stats, back to the AI landscape, back to Bittensor, what is it that you are most interested in inside of the Bittensor ecosystem? Talk to us about some of the subnets, some of the projects. Kind of like, what is the actual
Mhm.
substance underneath the Bittensor ecosystem that is compelling? If I'm a traditional finance allocator, I want to know what I'm investing into. Talk to me about the ecosystem. Talk to me about Bittensor.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the talent accrual that gets me the most excited right now. I think it's important to contextualize where Bittensor is at in its evolution. It is, to me, it's by far the best shot on goal for a decentralized AI network that competes with any centralized competitor. And I think you're seeing that on specific subnets where they are matching or outperforming centralized models. But it's still so early. So I think the keys to pay attention to really is, yeah, talent accrual, how much activity there is on the network. And then you are starting to see some products come out of Bittensor that are getting really high usage and that are high performance. So Shoots, I think, is a really good example. Shoots.ai is the website. It's a open source LLM, um, and allows you to use DeepSeek and other open source LLMs, all run on Bittensor. And I think it's products like that you don't necessarily need to know that it runs on Bittensor, but it provides something that's super useful. It's an alternative to ChatGPT that doesn't hand over all your data to OpenAI, which I think is a really massive problem and something that's just growing exponentially. Just how much power is accruing to a few of kind of the large players. And so I think it's products like that that provide a really kind of simple interface for people to onboard into Bittensor that get me really excited. And they just announced I think it's kind of the first Series A for a Bittensor subnet as of yesterday. I think they did a $10 million round from some VCs and some of the Google DeepMind guys and things like that. So that's really exciting to see, and I think it's an indication of where things are going to go with Bittensor in the next little while.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a good sign when ecosystem projects are getting funding from like a broader kind of like L1 company. Um, do you think that there's a chance that Bittensor becomes like the AI project for crypto?
Yes, I think I think
Is there now?
it will. I think that it's on the cusp of that. I think that it has I mean, the structure is there, and I think the fact that you have so many different teams that are building really useful AI products is there. But I think one of the challenges of crypto is everybody's sort of segmented into different projects, and there's kind of that cult mentality. So I think that it's really going to be Bittensor getting more mainstream adoption that will start to kind of like make it clear that it's the leading decentralized AI play, which I think will happen very in the short term for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Karia, man, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining on Rollup TV today. Congratulations on the success with WonderFi. Looking forward to the announcement tomorrow where you guys unveil your holdings. And hopefully you guys go out there and raise another 8 to 9 figures, buy some more 𝗨, get the market fired up, man. So best of luck, and I hope you manage your risk.
Thanks, man. Great to chat with you.
Yeah, cheers, man. See you soon.